晚安，晚安。不好意思，迟到了。ごめん，晚安。最好是初见啦。晚安。你们今天过得还好吗？感觉好久不见了。好久不见，过得还好吗？音量的部分还可以吗？有听到海浪声、BGM 还有我的声音吗？上次念到哪里呀？我上次还真是久。小江子和给默默朗读台啊，ありがとう，谢谢你，我知道你喜欢我的朗读台，ありがとう，谢谢你的可爱费，谢谢。好，我今天睡不着，不行，你们也要一起睡，你们也要一起睡着。我应该很好睡啦，我今天你们也看到，我今天就做了那些事，然后晚上跟医生推去吃饭，就跟他讲了一下，就是我最近的事情嘛。我其实回来，然后洗完澡准备，然后就弄会员桌布，然后就开台。抹茶冲锋，今天的夜空很特别，月亮下面木星跟金星，好大好漂亮，但再怎么美都没有默美。默是谁？默是谁？啊？可爱贝ありがとうございます。我包子啦，今天晚上可以有。请问你们的手发生什么事了？今天晚上又可以有一夜好眠了，谢谢我，不客气，我谢谢你来听我的朗读，ありがとうね，我包子啦，可爱贝ありがとう。就是这个包子有点油，对不对？那今天不是油，他今天打错字，笑死，我都记得哎，记忆力超好，你们做什么事我都记得。EJ 会做一模都いらっしゃい，欢迎加入姐妹会。抹冲好感度减1了吗？没有，抹茶冲锋很乖，它只是比较油而已。OK， 时间哦， 我时间怎么还自己在那边？哎，我刚刚不是拉过来了吗？哎，等一下，哎，我刚没有把它一起拉过来吗？它好孤单哦。OK， 我不把这个拉下来好了，这样。你们加会员看看。哎，不要，我可以这样。OK， 就这样，在我旁边。OK， 油茶冲锋。OK， 意为守贺，逐渐安安。今天第一次跟朗读台，为早上因上班而无法跟到的早安台跟念默道歉。当然不用跟我道歉，说什么呢？收回去你的道歉。艾利亚德，谢谢你的开费。意为守贺，谢谢你这么支持我们，艾利亚德。我有看到你在那个爱讲他们的台那边，我也记得你啦。但是你是第一次跟到朗读台是吗？等一下，就是跟朗读台的各位，就是可以尝试把手机放在旁边，或是戴耳机，然后躺在床上，窝在舒服的被窝里，想想就想睡。林老师，问问晚安，朗读台可以准备睡了，没错，准备好睡觉，阿里亚的。Brand 耶，明天早上有朝会，现在可以听默默念书，可以睡个好觉，而且明天不会紧张了，太好了，加油，阿里亚多，谢谢你的可爱费，咻，传了一个狗狗的贴图，阿里亚多，谢谢。对，你们可以去看一下那个会员社群、会员专属的 YouTube 社群区。我刚刚上传了1月份的会员桌布，2月份的过几天会被上传。ゆりなす来了，默默晚安，阿里亚多晚安，谢谢你的可爱费。我今天下播后其实小睡了大概5分钟，就是趴在桌上睡一下，才出门，所以还好。然后回来就是我没有时间滑推特啦，但是我好像歌好像发现我唱黑洞说了，我今天唱黑洞说歌好像发现，但我还没来得及看，所以好精彩的感觉，我好想回复他。姚宗廷下班可以马上跟朗读台，谢谢默默，我谢谢你呀呀的，谢谢你的可爱费。默默睡着就让他睡赞赞，笑死。得寸进尺。林咕噜晚安，谢谢你的可爱费，林咕噜晚安哦。你们等我一下哦。OK， 那我开始今天的朗读了，准备好，睡去吧，各位。BGM 什么都不会太大声吗？或是太小声？还有海浪声啊，听不听得到？听得到吗？我该相信你了吗？还是我自己听？有 BGM 吗？非常的适中，真的吗？我怎么没有听到？Really？ 真的哦？声音刚好，好，相信你们，反正是你们要听的，不是我。青龙传了一个爱心的贴图，阿里亚多，谢谢你，可爱飞阿里亚多，你的头贴好可爱。哦，有声音嘛，好，那我就开始我们今天的朗读 ，Let's get started。OK， 从上次我忘记上次那样打的，不过念重复也没有关系啦。OK。Now, this was a case in which you were given the results and had to find everything else for yourself. Now, let me endeavor to show you the different steps in my reasoning. To begin at the beginning, I approached the house, as you know, on foot, and With my mind entirely free from all impressions, I naturally began by examining the roadway. And there, as I have already explained to you, I saw clearly the marks of a cab, which, I ascertained by inquiry, must have been there during the night. I satisfied myself that it was a cab, and not a private carriage by the narrow gauge of the wheels. The ordinary London crawler is considerably less wide than a gentleman's brougham. There was a first point gained. I then walked slowly down the garden path, which happened to be composed of a clay soil, peculiarly suitable for taking impressions. No doubt it appeared to you to be a mere trampled line of slush, but to my trained eyes every mark upon its surface had a meaning. There is no branch to detective science which is so important and so much neglected as the art of tracing footsteps. Happily, I have always laid great stress upon it, and much practice has made it second nature to me. I saw the heavy footmarks of the constables, but I saw also the track of the two men who had first passed through the garden. It was easy to tell that they had been before the others, because in places their marks had been entirely obliterated by the others coming upon the top of them. In this way, my second link was formed, which told me that the nocturnal visitors were two in number. One remarkable for his height, as I calculated from the length of his stride, and the other fashionably dressed, to judge from the small and elegant impression left by his boots. On entering the house, this last inference was confirmed. My well-booted man lay before me. The tall one, then, had done the murder. If murder there was no wound upon the dead man's person, but the agitated expression upon his face assured me that he had foreseen his fate before it came upon him. Men who die from heart disease or any sudden natural cause never by any chance exhibit agitation upon their features. Having sniffed the dead man's lips, I detected a slightly sour smell, and I came to the conclusion that he had had poison forced upon him. Again, I argue that it had been forced upon him from the hatred and fear expressed upon his face. By the method of exclusion, I had arrived at its result, for no other hypothesis will meet the facts. Do not imagine that it was a very unheard of idea. The forcible administration of poison is by no means a new thing in criminal annals. The cases of Dostoevsky and in Odessa, and of Literature in Montpellier, will occur at once to any toxicologist. And now came the great question as to the reason why. Robbery had not been the object, of the murder. For nothing was taken. Was it politics, then, or was it a woman? That was the question which confronted me. I was inclined from the first to the latter supposition. Political assassins are only too glad to do their work and to fly. This murder had, on the contrary, been done most deliberately, and the perpetrator had left his tracks all over the room, showing that he had been there all the time. It must have been a private wrong, and not a political one, which called for such a methodical revenge. When the inscription was discovered upon the wall, I was more inclined than ever to my opinion. The thing was too evidently a blind. When the ring was found, however, it settled the question. Clearly, the murderer had used it to remind his victim of some dead or absent woman. It was at this point that I asked Gregson whether he had inquired in his telegram to Cleveland as to any particular point in Mr. Draper's former career. He answered, "You remember, in the negative." I then proceeded to make a careful examination of the room, which confirmed me in my opinion as to the murderer's height, and furnished me with the additional details as to the 我一直嘴瓢 trichinopoly figure and the length of his nails. I had already come to the conclusion, since there were no signs of a struggle, that the blood which covered the floor had burst from the murderer's nose in his excitement. I could perceive that the track of blood coincided with the track of his feet. It is seldom that any man, unless he is very full-blooded, breaks out in this way. Through emotion. So I had hazarded the opinion that the criminal was probably a robust, unruddy-faced man. Events proved that I had judged correctly. Having left the house, I proceeded to do what Gregson had neglected. I telegraphed to the head of the police at Cleveland, limiting my inquiry to the circumstances connected with the marriage of Enoch Draper. The answer was conclusive. It told me that Draper had already applied for the protection of the law against an old rival in love, named Jefferson Hope, and that the same Hope was at present in Europe. I knew now that I held the clue to the mystery in my hand, and all that remained to secure the murderer. I had already determined in my own mind that the man who had walked into the house with Draper was none other than the man who had driven the cab. The marks in the road showed me that the horse had wandered on in a way which would have been impossible had there been anyone in charge of it. Where, then, could the driver be, unless he were inside the house? Again, it is absurd to suppose that any sane man would carry out a deliberate crime under the very eyes, as it were, of a third person who was sure to betray him. Lastly, supposing one man wished to dog another through London, what better means could be adopted than to turn cab driver? All these considerations led me to the irresistible conclusion that Jefferson Hole was to be found among the surveys of the metropolis.舌头不听话。If he had been one, there was no reason to believe that he had ceased to be. 没关系，你们都醒，但是智商会睡着的，阿紫莎会睡着的，没问题。On the contrary, from his point of view, any sudden change would be likely to draw attention to himself. He will probably, for a time at least, continue to perform his duties. There was no reason to suppose that he was going under an assumed name. Why should he change his name in a country where no one knew his original one? I therefore organized my street Arab detective corps and sent them systematically to every cab proprietor in London until they ferreted out the man that I wanted. How well they succeeded, and how quickly I took advantage of it, are still fresh in your recollection. The murder of Stangerson was an incident which was entirely unexpected, but which could hardly in any case have been prevented. Through it, as you know, I came into possession of the pills, the existence of which I had already surmised. You see, the whole thing is a chain of logical sequences without a break of flow. It is wonderful, I cried. Your merits should be publicly recognized. You should publish an account of the case. If you want, I will for you. You may do what you like, Doctor, he answered. See here, he continued, handing a paper over to me. Look at this. It was the echo for the day, and the paragraph to which he pointed was devoted to the case in question. The public, it said, have lost a sensational treat through the sudden death of the man Hope, who was suspected of the murder of Mr. Enoch Draper and of Mr. Joseph Stangerson. The details of the case will probably be never known now, so we are informed upon good authority that the crime was the result of an old-standing, unromantic feud in which love and Mormonism bore a part. It seems that both the victims belonged, in their younger days, to the Latter-day Saints, and Hope, the deceased prisoner, hails also from Salt Lake City. If the case has had no other effect, it, at least, brings out in the most striking manner the efficiency of our detective police force, and will serve as a lesson to all foreigners foreigners, that they will do wisely to settle their views at home, and not to carry them onto British soil. It is an open secret that the credit of the smart capture belongs entirely to the well-known Scotland Yard officials, Messrs. Lestrade and Gregson, the man who was apprehended, it appears, in the rooms of a certain Mr. Sherlock Holmes, who had himself, as an amateur, shown some talents in the detective line, and who, with such instructors, may hope in time to attain to some degree of their skill. It is expected that a testimonial of some sort will be presented to the two office as a fitting recognition of their services. "Didn't I tell you so when we started?" cried Sherlock Holmes with a laugh. "That's the result of all our study in Scotland, to get them a testimonial." "Never mind," I answered. I have all the facts in my journal, and the public shall know them. In the meantime, you must make yourself contented by the consciousness of success, like the Roman Missal. JJ， 我们念完写字的研究了，接下来是 The Sign of Four。The Sign of Four。韩吉，欢迎我们的韩吉。我们刚念完写字的研究诶，喝水。好好喝，我好渴。JJ 欢迎韩吉，欢迎热烈欢迎。我们接下来要开始我们的第2章 The Sign of Four， 四，中文翻译叫什么？ Chapter 1 The Science of Deduction. Sherlock Holmes took his bottle from the corner of the mantelpiece, and his hypodermic from its neat morocco case. With his long, white, nervous fingers, he adjusted the delicate needle and rolled back his lips shirt-cuff. For some little time, his eyes rested thoughtfully upon the sinewy forearm and wrists, all dotted as guard him with innumerable punctual marks. Finally, he thrust the sharp point home, pressed down the tiny piston, and sank back into the velvet-lined armchair with a long sigh of satisfaction. Three times a day for many months I had witnessed his performance, but custom had not reconciled my mind to it. On the contrary, from day to day, I had become more irritable at the sight, and my conscience swelled nightly within me at the thought that I had lacked the courage to protest. Again and again, I had registered a vow that I should deliver my soul upon the subject, there was that in the cool, nonchalant air of my companion, which made him the last man with whom one would care to take anything approaching to liberty. His great powers, his masterly manner, and the experience which I had had of his many extraordinary qualities all made me difficult and backward in crossing him. Yet, upon that afternoon, whether it was the biennial which I had taken with my lunch, or the additional exasperation produced by the extreme deliberation of this manner, I suddenly felt that I could hold out no longer. "Which is it today?" I asked. "Morphine or cocaine?" He raised his eyes languidly from the old black letter volume which he had opened. "It is cocaine," he said. "A 7% solution. Would you care to try it?" "No, indeed," I answered brusquely. "My constitution has not got over the Afghan campaign yet. I cannot afford to throw any extra strain upon it." He smiled at my vehemence. "Perhaps you are right." 对，福尔摩斯会习古柯碱，他有药物成瘾的问题。"Watson," he said, "I suppose that its influence is physically a bad one. I find it, however, so transcendently stimulating and clarifying to the mind that its secondary action is a matter of small moment." "But consider," I said earnestly, "count the cost. Your brain may, as you say, be roused and excited, but it is a pathological and morbid process which involves increased tissue change and may at least leave a permanent weakness. You know, too, what a black reaction comes upon you. Surely the game is hardly worth a candle. Why would you, for a mere passing pleasure, risk the loss of those great powers with which you have been endowed? Remember that I speak not only as one comrade to another, but as a medical man to one for whose constitution he is to some extent answerable." He did not seem offended. On the contrary, he put his fingertips together and leaned his elbows on the arms of his chair, like one who has a relish for conversation. "My mind," he said, "rebels at stagnation. Give me problems. Give me work. Give me the most abstruse cryptogram or the most intricate analysis, and I am in my own proper atmosphere. I can dispense then with artificial stimulants. But I abhor the dull routine of existence. I crave for mental exaltation. That is why I have chosen my own particular profession, or rather created it. For I am the only one in the world, the only unofficial detective," I said, raising my eyebrows. "The only unofficial consultant detective," he answered. "I'm the last and highest court of appeal in detection. when Gregson or Lestrade or Astley Jones are out of their depths, which, by the way, is the normal state, the matter is laid before me. I examine the data as an expert and pronounce a specialist's opinion. I claim no credit in such cases. My name figures in no newspaper. The work itself, the pleasure of finding a field for my peculiar powers, is my highest reward. But you have yourself had some experience of my methods of work in the Jefferson Hope case. Yes, indeed, said I. I was never so struck by anything in my life. I even embodied it in a small brochure with the somewhat fantastic title of A Study in Scarlet. He shook his head sadly. I glanced over it, said he. Honestly, I cannot congratulate you upon it. Detection is, or ought to be, an exact science and should be treated in the same cold and unemotional manner. You have attempted to taint it with romanticism, which produces much the same effect as if you work a love story or an elopement into the fifth proposition of Euclid. But the romance was there, I remonstrated. I could not tamper with the facts. 喝水。I glanced over it, he said. Honestly, I cannot... Some facts should be suppressed, or at least a just sense of proportion should be observed in treating them. The only point in a case which deserved mention was a curious analytical reasoning from effects to causes, by which I succeeded in unraveling it. I was annoyed at this criticism of a work which had been specially designed to please him. I confess, too, that I was irritated by the egotism which seemed to demand that every line of my pamphlet should be devoted to his own special doings. More than once during the years that I had lived with him in Baker Street, I had observed that a small vanity underlay my companion's quiet and didactic manner. I made no remark, however, but sat nursing my wounded leg. I had had a chisel bullet through it some time before, although it did not prevent me from walking in ash wearily at every change of the weather. My practice has extended recently to the continent, said Holmes after a while, filling up his old briar root pipe. I was consulted last week by Francois Villard, who, as you probably know, has come rather to the front lately in the France detective service. He has all the Celtic power of quick intuition. 邻居在抽烟，等我一下。错了。My practice has extended recently to the continent, said Holmes after a while, filling up his old briar road pipe. I was consulted last week by... Oh, no. He is deficient in the wide range of exact knowledge, which is essential to the higher developments of his art. The case was concerned with his will and possessed some features of interest. I was able to refer him to two parallel cases, the one at Riga in 1857, and the other at St. Louis in 1871, which have suggested to him the true solution. Here is a letter which I had this morning acknowledging my assistance. He tossed over, as he spoke, a crumpled sheet of foreign notepaper. I glanced my eyes down it, catching a profusion of notes of admiration. With stray magnificent, 这是法文啊。coup de maître and tour de force. All testifying to the ardent admiration of the French man. He speaks as a pupil to his master, said I. Oh, he rates my assistance too highly, said Sherlock Holmes slightly. He has considerable gifts himself. He possesses 2 out of the 3 qualities necessary for the ideal detective. He has the power of observation and that of deduction. He is only wanting in knowledge, and that may come in time. He is now translating my small works into French. ロ宇さん、Your works? Oh, didn't you know? He cried, laughing. Yes, I have been guilty of several monographs. They are all upon technical subjects. Here, for example, is one upon the distinction between the ashes of the various tobaccos. In it, I enumerate 140 forms of cigar, cigarette, and pipe tobacco, with colored pens, illustrating the difference in the ash. It is a point which is continually turning up in criminal trials, and which is sometimes of supreme importance as a clue. If you can't say definitely, for example, that some murder had been done by a man who was smoking an Indian lawn car, it obviously narrows your field of search. To the trained eye, there is as much difference between the black ash of a trichinopoly and the white fluff of bird's eye as there is between a cabbage and a potato. You have an extraordinary genius for a minute, I remarked. I appreciate their importance. Here is my monograph upon the tracing of footsteps, with some remarks upon the uses of plaster of Paris as a preserver of impressions. Here, too, is a curious little work upon the influence of the trade upon the form of the hand, with little types of the hands of slaters, sailors, cork cutters, compositors, weavers, and diamond polishers. That is a matter of great practical interest to the scientific detective, especially in case of unclaimed bodies, or in discovering the antecedents of criminals. But I worry you with my hobby. Not at all, I answered earnestly. It is of the greatest interest to me, especially since I have had the opportunity of observing your practical application of it. But you spoke just now of observation and deduction. Surely the one to some extent implies the others. Why, hardly, he answered, leaning back luxuriously in his armchair and sending up thick blue breath from his pipe. For example, observation shows me that you have been to the Wigmore Street post office this morning, but deduction lets me know that when there you dispatch a telegraph. Right, said I. Right on both points, but I confess that I don't see how you arrive at it. It was a sudden impulse upon my part, and I have mentioned it to no one. It is simplicity itself, he remarked, chuckling at my sharp surprise. So absurdly simple that an explanation is superfluous. And yet, it may serve to define the limits of observation and of deduction. Observation tells me that you have a little reddish wood, and adhering to your instep, just opposite the Wigmore Street office, they have taken up the pavement and thrown up some earth, which lies in such a way that it is difficult to avoid trading in it and entering. The earth is of this peculiar reddish tint which is found, as far as I know, nowhere else in our neighborhood. So much is observation, the rest is deduction. How, then, did you deduce the telegram? Why, of course, I knew that you had not written a letter. Since I sat opposite you all morning, I see also in your open desk, though that you have a sheet of stamps and a thick bundle of postcards. What could you do, or what could you go into the post office for, then, but to send a wire? Eliminate all other factors, and the one which remains must be the truth. In this case, it certainly is so, I replied after a little thought. The thing, however, is, as you say, of the simplest. Would you think me impertinent if I were to put your theories to a more severe test? On the contrary, he answered, it would prevent me from taking a second dose of cocaine. I should be delighted to look into any problem which you might submit to me. I have heard you say it is difficult for a man to have any object in daily use without leaving the impress of his individuality upon it in such a way that a trained observer might read it. Now, I have here a watch which has recently come into my possession. Would you have the kindness to let me have an opinion upon the character or habits of the late owner? I handed him over the watch, with some slight feeling of amusement in my heart, for the test was, as I thought, an impossible one, and I intended it as a lesson against the somewhat dogmatic tone which he occasionally assumed. He balanced the watch in his hand, gazed hard at the dial, opened the back, and examined the works. First with his naked eyes, and then with a powerful convex lens. I could hardly keep from smiling at his crestfallen face when he finally snapped the case to and handed it back. Oh, Frey.啊，睡着了吗？睡着了哈。There are hardly any data, he remarked. The watch has been recently cleaned, which robs me of my most suggestive facts. You are right, I answered. It was cleaned before being sent to me. In my heart, I accused my companion of putting forward a most lame and impotent excuse to cover his failure. What data could he expected from an uncleaned watch? Though unsatisfactory, my research has not been entirely barren, he observed, staring up at the ceiling with dreamy, lackluster eyes. Subject to your correction, I should judge that the watch belonged to your elder brother, who inherited it from your father. That you gather, no doubt, from the HW upon the back. Quite so. The W suggests your own name. The date of the watch is nearly 50 years back, and the initials are as old as the watch. So, it was made for the last generation. Jewelry usually descends to the eldest son, and he is most likely to have the same name as the father. Your father has, if I remember right, been dead many years. It has, therefore, been in the hands of your eldest brother. Right, so far, said I. Anything else? He was a man of untidy habits, very untidy and careless. He was left with good prospects, but he threw away his chances, lived for some time in poverty, with occasional short intervals of prosperity. And finally, taking a drink, he died. That is all I can gather. I sprang from my chair and limped impatiently about the room with considerable bitterness in my heart. This is unworthy of you, Holmes, I said. I could not have believed that you would have descended to this. You have made inquiries into the history of my unhappy brother, and you now pretend to deduce this knowledge in some fanciful way. You cannot expect me to believe that you have read all this from his old watch. It is unkind and, to speak plainly, has a touch of charlatanism in it. My dear doctor, said he kindly, pray accept my apologies, viewing the matter as an abstract problem. I had forgotten how personal and painful a thing it might be to you. I assure you, however, that I never even knew that you had a brother until you handed me the watch. Then how in the name of all that is wonderful did you get these facts? They are absolutely correct in every particular. Oh, that is good luck. I could only say that what was a balance of probability. I did not at all expect to be so accurate. But it was not mere guesswork. No, I never guess. It is a shocking habit, destructive to the logical faculty. What seems strange to you is only so because you do not follow my train of thought, or observe the small fact upon which large inference may depend. For example, I began by stating that your brother was careless. When you observe the lower part of that watch case, you notice that it is not only dinted in two places, but it's cut and marked all over from the habit of keeping other hard objects, such as coins or keys, in the same pocket. Surely, it is no great feat to assume that a man who treats a 50-guinea watch so cavalierly must be a careless man. Neither is it a very far-fetched inference that a man who inherits one article of such value is pretty well provided for in other respects. I nodded to show that I follow his reasoning. It is very customary for pawnbrokers in England, when they take a watch, to scratch the numbers of the ticket with a pinpoint upon the inside of the case. It is more handy than a label, as there is no risk of the number being lost or transposed. There are no less than 4 such numbers visible to my lens on the inside of this case. Inference that your brother was often at low water. Secondary inference that he had occasional bursts of prosperity, or he could not have redeemed the pledge. Finally, I ask you to look at the inner plate, which contains the keyhole. Look at the thousands of scratches all around the hole, marks where the key has slipped. A sober man's key could have scored those grooves, but you will never see a drunkard watch without him. He winds it at time, and he leaves these traces of his unsteady hand. Where's the mystery in all this? It is as clear as daylight, I answered. I regret the injustice which I did you. I should have had more faith in your marvelous faculty. May I ask whether you have any professional inquiry on foot at present? None, hence the cocaine. I cannot leave without brain work. What else is there to live for? Stand at the window here. Was ever such a dreary, dismal, unprofitable world? See how the yellow fog swirls down the street and drifts across the dun-colored houses. What could be more hopelessly prosaic, unmaterial? What is the use of having powers, Doctor, when one has no field upon which to exert them? Crime is commonplace. Existence is commonplace. And no qualities save those which are commonplace have any function upon earth. I had opened my mouth to reply to this tirade when, with a crisp knock, our landlady entered, bearing a card upon the brass server. "A young lady for you, sir," she said, addressing my companion. "Miss Mary Morstan," he read. I have no recollection of this name. Ask the young lady to step up, Mrs. Thompson. Don't go, Doctor. I should prefer that you remain.今天朗读要告一段落了，各位。我的肩膀好酸哦，这个原文书真的好重。哎呀，睡一下来哟。好有趣。我得感谢可爱费，然后我明天应该要来录音了，不可以再逃避了。OK， 汤，布丁汤圆蝶豆花成了一个狗狗的贴图，阿里亚多，谢谢你的可爱费。Amelia 成了一个黑猫的贴图，阿里亚多，谢谢你的可爱费。肩膀好酸。连you 听到默默的声音，今天可以有个好眠了，先睡了，晚安，晚安，谢谢你，晚安。星辰大海中，默默晚上好，要保重身体哦，谢谢默默的助眠朗读，不用客气，我谢谢你来听，阿里亚多。柔语上辛苦了，今天的表演也是。柔语上还比赛。好想问怎么样哦，因为我今天不在，好想看比赛。哎呦，我揉一下肩膀。星辰大海中，谢谢你的可爱费。Hello Harry Chu， 欢迎做一摸对啦晒，欢迎加入姐妹会。可以按摩一下，我正在。Jason Chen， 不知道是不是我哈利波特玩太入迷，听念默口音听起来还有霍格华兹传承的 feel。比起 W， 今晚又可以有助眠朗读陪伴，请收下可爱费，ありがとうございます，谢谢你。辛苦了，ありがとうございます，谢谢你，每次都有来，ありがとう。姐，默默辛苦了，今天整天都有默默的陪伴，好幸福。我明天不可以逃避录音了，我今天要早点睡，不可以逃避录音了，可恶。ありがとうね。我在冲锋传了一个玫瑰花的贴图，ありがとう，谢谢你的可爱费。青龙辛苦了，谢谢你。ありがとうね。今天挖酸练习没问题的，大家都辛苦了啊！算练习哦，可恶，好想看。明天也要加，明天的话不会有歌会哦，歌会演到礼拜六哦，因为我明天要办正事，我没有办法开歌会。谢谢你们哦，我演到。或是如果我下午想要唱歌的话，不行，我要录音，笑死！我在逃避录音了。下午补档组会不会想要杀了我？7个小时的那个档案要补，他们可能想对我说：“我谢谢你哦。”我看一下，我还有除了姐妹会Among Us 的可爱费还没有感谢各位。卡纳利亚，欢迎做一摸多伊拉塞，谢谢你，欢迎加入姐妹会。我看一下。Among Us那一天。抹茶冲锋传了一个玫瑰花的贴图，ありがとうございます。青龙造起来，我好造，可爱费ありがとう呢，谢谢。小江Suki辛苦默默了，在你的声音里，期待下礼拜，谢谢你，谢谢你喜欢我的朗读台，好开心哦，我很喜欢朗读给你们听。但是我一直在想一个办法，就是让我拿着书的时候，因为我还要低头嘛，让我拿着书的时候，就是头就是肩颈不要这么不舒服。风诺比方，中风的念法，中风日文。默默辛苦了，你也早点休息。好啊，谢谢你，你也是，ありがとうね。 没有电子书，是实体书。阅读书架你们要想哦，那个阅读书架不可以挡住我的镜头，很麻烦哈。Among Us 传了一个狗狗的贴图，ありがとう，谢谢你的可爱飞。工具人 IMB 胖丁代切松饼飞，胖丁代切松可愛いありがとう。风の体勾勾给起来，让默默变得更可爱。什么东西？谢谢你的可爱飞。花花 Q 弹马吉烧念默，皆有念默需要赞助，你给我放尊重一点哦。可愛いありがとう。晚安。你礼貌吗？Amelia 只像默默可以养吗？我突然觉得喉咙痛。可愛いありがとうね。不可以，你养不起。我还附带2只猫。亲吻我直接抱回家。谢谢你的可爱费。史蒂华夫饼给妻子可爱莫的可爱费，ありがとう，谢谢你的可爱费。恶米长，你把名字改成中文的了吗？可爱费默默今天辛苦了，ありがとう，谢谢你。恶米长 again， 默默晚安了，今天辛苦了，谢谢你晚安。默默不是啊，抹茶冲锋开了一个爱心的贴图，谢谢你的可爱费。青龙辛苦了，祝好梦。ありがとう，祝你今天可以睡好觉。Devil 那天我有感谢你们吗？ Devil 那天我有感谢你们吗？好像没有，对不对？我怎么会没有嘞？啊，那我隔天在干嘛？哈利波特，哦，在哈利波特 ，OK。零路猫，你们会介意我就是念快一点吗？因为我不介意吗？但是我感激的心情还是很大的，但是我可能就念快一点这样。木鱼默默辛苦你陪伴，今晚微微好眠，补了一天白天的直播。粉随主播的真的默默也才是那个最独一味的女孩，才会让大家如此喜欢你，真喜欢你的嗓音。唱歌的时候很清亮，这样有没有很想睡觉？朗读的时候磁性充满很多情感，没心没用听的就能感受得到。看默默它就是一种享受，让人很放松很治愈。今天是非常可爱的默默，ありがとうございます，谢谢你。露露在夜猫的1个月，ありがとう。西路易。会长妹ありがとう，谢谢你，可愛いありがとう。我要来那个喽，感谢迪波尔那天的。 零路猫念默才不碰，没错，我才不碰。可爱费阿里亚多动言之前给念默收经费，阿里亚多谢谢你的收经费。可是我还是被吓死了。青龙水有耳膜准备好了，放心叫吧。我真的是叫了超级多，感谢你们的耳膜，谢谢。动言子我笑到没丁没当，谢谢。请问你到底笑什么？可爱费阿里亚多哥在姨妈四。秀那天有传来一个狗狗贴图阿里亚多青龙，我很勇敢，我不怕。我在催眠我自己，谢谢你 ，Scott。默默记得喝水，好，我有喝水，阿里亚多，谢谢你。我那天真的叫到喉咙超痛。林库路半星，林库路2次。不懂麻将，只好线上阳寿了。那时候已经在打麻将了，谢谢你们的阳寿。我真的是每次开台打麻将，那个手气真的是，我真的是受不了。我手气怎么会这么好？如果过年的时候跟家里打麻将，手气也有这么好的话，我应该会赢很多钱。可是我只有在你们这边的时候，我的手气才会这么好。香菇过完用，念默晚安，明天有面试先睡啦，面试加油，阿里亚多，提前说辛苦了，先去休息了，阿里亚多，谢谢你。DJ 大 Z 不会麻将帮不了忙，找先生阳寿，感谢你们的阳寿，谢谢。发行中的夜神好，给你阳寿，谢谢你的阳寿。咦哟，看少看男实况主默默哦，念过这个的，谢谢。芋圆柚子，默默晚安，要睡了，晚安。姐，这就是阳寿之力吗？你们的阳寿真的很好用。怀特，阳寿给你，阿里亚多，谢谢你们非常非常非常有用的阳寿。就发了一个狗狗的贴图，阿里亚多狗在吗子？青龙阳寿献给天才字幕少女。字幕，阿里亚多狗在吗？上雨啦，我都没想到可以转回来。我发现我手没了。对啊，那天啊，很长，就是你们以为我出错牌了，然后就说完蛋了，没了。结果后来转回来，一个自摸，一个弧，一个河，一个河，我又赢了。怎么会这样子呢？哦，我太厉害了！动眼子，这是喝酒了吧？我那天没有喝酒哦，谢谢。林路猫天才麻将少女晚安，阳寿费线上，阿里亚多谢谢。神竞牌自摸手，有人带牌来打，我打到大家都说默默，我检查一下你的手，你到底有没有自己带牌？我不止那天恐怖，你问上一栏，你问其他半型，我每次都很恐怖。青龙阳寿再次线上，里亚多狗在吗？谢谢你，林老师来了，可爱贝阿里亚多。福建分说您的阳寿引导上，我谢谢您的阳寿，谢谢惠顾，下次再来。怀特需要阳寿说一声就好好的，下次再麻烦你们咯，谢谢。骑士姐叫阿瓜，我的阳寿30块，谢谢你30块的阳寿，阿里亚多。DJ 大 Z 进攻阳寿，阿里亚多，谢谢你阳寿。风加拿大阳寿费交起来，希望明天上学不会出事，你明天会平平安安长命百岁，福禄东海，寿比南山。谢谢你，乌米酱，我的阳寿费我要先去睡觉，明天要上班，辛苦了，乌米酱，谢谢你的阳寿费。花花 Q 台马吉烧线上最后的阳寿给最可爱的默默，要去休息了，明天还要上班，默默也要好好休息哦，谢谢你的阳寿，花花 Q 台马吉烧，阿里亚多。达纳特斯第2把军士吸走了，没有，你不要乱说。威牛不论0牌，糟糕，不觉得其他3位的提议很有吸引力吗 ？No， 你不能乱说。哼，抹茶冲锋，玫瑰花里亚多，父母加拿大，这次可以改台词费吗？开玩笑的，不行，谢谢。Kevin 网直播主或 VTuber 帮你接到其他 V 机主的电话，绝对是某人被破坏了，没错，现在都是这样子啦。里亚多哥在姨妈斯发行中的夜神好，我们是默默超级日麻计算机，没错，你们是我的超级日麻计算机，里亚多。怀特线上最后的阳寿，我的精神消耗殆尽了，默默晚安，请你们一定要长命百岁，福禄东海，寿比南山，里亚多哥在姨妈斯。维牛顿0牌，心脏停了，为什么？卡菲亚里亚多哥在姨妈斯。风奴加拿大不会打麻将，只能献出更多的阳寿了。风奴加拿大，你真的是哇！我看你献出好多阳寿，你还好吗？DJ 的 Z 帮默默献上阳寿，阿里亚多哥在吗？风奴加拿大 again， 可爱费最好的能量补充剂，谢谢你，可爱费阿里亚多哥在吗？动言子醒来，我记得这个。 醒来，可爱被都打到，因为我赢太多了，然后奶哥很想要我跟达达可以输一次，结果打4场，3场都奶哥输，1场尼鲁输。而且那最后一场啊，我说我想睡觉了，我不打了，奶哥就说你又回来继续打，所以那个冻颜子才传这个醒来的可爱飞。然后结果回去打之后我又核爆，然后奶哥又输了。对，加奶，笑死！青龙天台字幕少女当之无愧，没错，可爱飞利亚的风的加拿大为这宝贵的友谊献上可爱飞，真的很宝贵呢。这个友谊真的是非常宝贵，这样都还没翻，可爱飞利亚的，初见利亚的。青龙默默辛苦了，半新闻的阳寿需要 CD， 晚安，祝好梦。好，那下次你们 CD 好的时候，我们再开一次。可爱飞利亚的 Kevin Wang， 我觉得夜幕造业的业力越来越重了，会力标正在蓄力中，之后奶哥一定会一直约你打麻，打到你输为止。哼，我有你们，我怎么可能会输呢？对不对？可爱飞利亚的ございます。樱花秀早点休息哦，联络。好，你也是啊，利亚的。风诺加拿大为今晚最大的赢家献上礼袍。阿里亚多，谢谢你的礼袍，阿里亚多呢？这不是 flag， 这个就是非常肯定你各位麻将的实力，好吗？非常肯定你各位麻将的实力，或者是啊，我明天真要录音了，不然我就不会是那个就是 A 型人格 Nemo 了。我检查一下，我看一下，我记得绿界有，今天是24号，今天是24号，不对，朗读是23号。Amelia， 不知道是不是这样投台词？Amelia， 我们的台词会已经过了哦。谢谢你，可爱贝亚利亚多，来自绿界的 Amelia。I'm sorry, but 我们台词只能让姐妹们听到哦，不然你下次回线的时候你再来，谢谢。我到底有没有练花花 Q 弹马吉草？应该练了。2月23号12点40。哦，有练了。我记得林老师有跟我说他的被跳过了，我看一下，林老师你还在吗？林老师1次，林老师2次，林老师3次，林老师在吗？冷血奇玄，欢迎小姨妈对拉塞，欢迎你加入姐妹会，谢谢你。林老师睡了，那我看一下林老师的可爱飞在哪里哦？就他妈的哦，我没有看到嘞。那样呢？你们等我一下哦。你们有没有想睡觉？你们有没有想睡觉？睡啊。我看一下哦，10726，天哪，我脑袋有点无法思考。10726，我怎么知道那是几点啊？哦，林老师，我看到了，他说爱你。可爱贝利亚多，谢谢林老师做前天姐妹会的可爱贝，你们要跟林老师说，我有感谢他，我有看到了，跟林老师说谢谢。明天早吧，那我要赶快下播了，我也要睡觉，明天要录音，这样你们才可以听到更多很好的作品。 那今天就要在这里跟你们说拜拜了。明天就是末日了，不是啊，今天就是末日了，拜拜哦，ありがとうね，拜拜，晚安。